What's good, everybody? In my video today, we're talking about introductory to matrices. And the first thing that we need to know, guys, is that a matrix is just an array or table of numbers that's arranged in rows times columns. So rows are going to run from left to right, and then we know that our columns are going to run from up to down, right? They're going to run vertically. And what we also need to know, guys, is how to identify an element in the matrix. So let's say they ask us to identify A11. So what that's saying is, what is the element that's in the first row, first column? And that would be 2. Let's say they ask us for A23. So what they're saying is, hey, what element is in the second row, third column, which would be 3. And then just to do one more, we're going to say, what is A22? Meaning second row, second column, which would be 5. Now, another thing they like to do is to access either the order or the dimension of the matrix. And the way that we do that, guys, is just list the rows times columns. So the dimension for this would be 2 times 3 because we have 2 rows times 3 columns. Now, in the second part of our video, we're going to identify more of the dimensions of matrices. We're going to list the dimensions for these matrices. So right here, we're going to say that this is a 1 by 1 matrix, right? 1 row, 1 column. When we go to our second example, we have 1, 2, 3 rows and 2 columns, all right? When we go to our third matrix, we have 1 row here, second row here, and we have 3 columns. So this would be a 2 by 3 matrix. And then when we look at our last example, we have 1 row times 4 columns. So this is a way that we would list our dimensions for the matrices. We're always going to go rows times the amount of columns. And just remember, rows run left to right, columns run up and down. Now, in this next part of our video, we're going to talk about how to properly add, subtract, and scale matrices. We're now going to talk about scaling matrices. So what it tells us right here is to take A and multiply it by 5. So all that means is we're going to go to matrix A and multiply it by 5. And once we do, this would be our answer. We'd have -10, 30, 5, and 20. All we have to do, guys, is just multiply each of those elements inside the matrix by 5. Now, let's say that they wanted us to add matrices together. First, what we have to understand, guys, is that the dimensions have to be the same. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of what I mean. So before we solve this one, let's say we had a different matrix where they wanted us to add these two. Let's write it out first. All right. So right here, we have a 2 by 2 matrix. And then over here, we have a matrix that is 2 by 1. So what we have to understand, guys, is for us to add them, properly add them, they have to have the same dimensions. So if we're to add these two together, guys, we would not be able to because they do not have the same amount of rows and columns. So this right here would be like no solution, okay? Because we cannot solve that. But let's say we focus back to what's in blue. If we notice, both of these matrices are 2 by 2, so we are able to add them. And this is how we properly add them, okay? We have to add the corresponding elements with each other. So that means -2 needs to be added with -3. Once we do that, we're going to get -5. Then we go back, add 4 with 11, we're going to get 17. 1 with 2, we're going to get 3. And then our last one, 7 and 4, to get 11. Now, if we add them randomly, guys, we are not going to get the answer correct at all. But before we go, if you found this video helpful, I'm going to ask that you guys smash the like button for us. It really helps us to get this video out to more students. But before we go, guys, let's just go back, and they told us that they wanted us to subtract these matrices. How would that change the answer? So honestly, guys, it's not going to change it that much. The biggest thing that we need to understand is that we have to subtract in the same exact order. Meaning I would have to do -2 minus -3. If I did it the other way, I could definitely get the wrong value. So if we were to subtract in this problem now, this is what we'll get. -2 minus -3, that's going to give us a +1. 6 minus 11 is going to give us -5. 1 minus 2 is -1. And 4 minus 7 is going to give us -3. Now, like I said, guys, if we did it the opposite way, B minus A, we would not get the same exact values. Perfect example right here, 11 minus 6 would give us a +5. So when you're solving matrices and you're adding and subtracting, guys, please remember your rows times columns, the elements and how to locate them, as well as how to identify the order or the dimensions of the matrices. Hope this video was helpful for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today on Algebra 1 with Mr. Peters.